Your mom fell at home. She's in rehab, and everyone agrees that she's just not safe at home any longer. But you're busy with work, the kids, your mom's cat, and of course, your mom, talking to doctors and physical therapists and social workers. And now you have to add touring senior living communities to your list. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and this week we're talking about how to make the most out of the senior living tour.
Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip from our guest.
You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. Hi, and welcome to the show. You may already know that I have a company called Clear Path, and we help families find the right assisted living or memory care. Part of my job is accompanying families on tours and touring communities myself on a regular basis. Before I started my company, I worked in senior living and I was that tour guide. It occurred to me recently that these tours of senior living are pretty much the same. You'll stop in or call ahead, you'll sit and chat about your situation, or you might even jump right into being shown around. And most of the time, the tour guide is going to have their route, the usual way that they show a family around, highlights, things they like to point out. And many times, these are things you're not even interested in because you already know your mom doesn't like to play cards or she really doesn't care if there's a piano player that comes in once a week. They call this tour guide the marketer or move in coordinator. And when your job is to give the tours, you can get comfortable with a certain way of doing it. And in some cases, are even taught a certain way by the community or a third party company. I found myself in these situations too. The bottom line is that the tour guide or marketer is a sales position. And even though there are plenty of people out there like myself who really care about what you're going through and really want to help, most of the marketers out there are being held accountable for how many move ins they get in a month. I've always told families to go with your gut. Choose the place that feels right. But we've all heard the saying people buy from people they like. So, how can you make sure that you're choosing the right place for your loved one and not just because you really like the tour guide? Well, this week we're going to talk about a few tips for doing just that. But before we get to those tips, I want to share a story of a family I helped when I worked in memory care. Their mom was living on her own in her own home, but had started to get her days and nights mixed up, and she was knocking on her neighbor's door at 2 a.m. more than once. She had also recently fallen, and she was in the hospital. They realized it was time to look for a memory care, and they came in for a tour. We sat down, we talked about their situation, and the family was really overwhelmed. I toured with two of the sisters. They thought our building was a good fit, and they chose us. They started moving forward with the paperwork and moving in all of the furniture, getting the room set up. I will never forget the day of the move. I met the third sister. They had literally moved in all of the furniture. Their mom was to arrive in about 3 hours. And the third sister looked around the room, stopped at the window, and said, doesn't mom always think someone's trying to break in? We were on the first floor. We all looked at each other, and I knew instantly this was not going to work. Luckily, we had a second floor and we quickly got everything moved. This story leads us to our first and probably most important tip. Make a list of all the deal breakers for your loved one. Is it a first floor window? Is it being able to eat dinner in the dining room at 4 p.m.? Because some communities don't offer this. Is it being able to get out of the building on day trips? Whatever the deal breakers are, know those things that are most important before you ever tour. Our second tip is don't go alone. Now, in this case, I met with two sisters, and so they did have each other. But that third sister was the one who realized that really important deal breaker. Now, if the third sister could have toured, would we have figured that out? Maybe, but maybe not. Because, like we already mentioned, most families are really overwhelmed when it comes to this point of touring. But it will help to have someone else to talk through what you saw and remember all the details. This is one of the things that families have shared with us that they really liked about working with us at ClearPath. We're able to be that sounding board. Now, if you aren't able to find someone to go with you, then bring that list of deal breakers and any questions those bring up. The next tip would be to really look around at the other residents and staff when you tour. Do the staff seem attentive? The residents content? Now, I'm not saying that everyone should be expected to be happy all the time. We're certainly not. And I'm sure your mom or dad probably has a bad day every now and then. But you can definitely get a feel for the environment. And if it seems off, you can ask about it. Maybe there's a reason for the bad day. Also, really look around at the building. Is it in disrepair? Is it dirty? And would that matter to your mom or dad? Or does it just matter to you? Again, going back to that list of deal breakers, is cleanliness or having a new building or freshly painted and remodeled apartment on the deal breaker list? Chat with the residents. Ask them how they like living there. Of course, this would not apply to memory care. This is for the independent living or assisted living buildings. There are often residents in these communities, sometimes called ambassadors, and they will usually introduce themselves to you when you're on a tour. They'll tell you how much they love the community. And I love these folks because they're also usually the ones who'll make sure that your mom or dad feel comfortable and get introduced around if they move in. But make sure you also talk to the folks that are just sitting around the fireplace, doing an activity, or even riding the elevator with you. You'll sometimes get some really great insider information. And finally, ask yourself what your expectations are, and then remind yourself that you're new to this. You can't be expected to know what's normal, what's mandated by state regulations, or even what's not normal. There are no dumb questions. When I first started working in senior living, I was so excited. I thought, wow, I get to help seniors. I get to chat with them every day and learn from them and be a part of their home. I quickly learned that yes, we're helping seniors, but it's also a business. So do your best to approach it like a business. And hopefully that will help avoid any big problems after move in day and help make your decision a little more doable.
Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.